And we say good afternoon here at Ballard Sports Media. It's Christian Ballard, your host, Christian Ballard, sports journalist here at Ballard Sports Media, with the one and only, at least as far as podcasting goes, I'm sure, Luke Robinson of Locked On Bama. Go follow him, LS Robinson 21 on Twitter. How you doing today, man? And how's the podcast going with Jimmy?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it. It means a lot. Yeah, the podcast is going great. We're approaching 16,000 subscribers very quickly. We never thought we'd get to something like that, honestly. We have pretty humble beginnings in all of this. I mean, humble is being generous, because we started a podcast. I mean, let me make it a little longer story. A buddy of ours named Lawrence McCrary started a website called Crimson Country Club, because the reason he started it was he thought some of the message boards were getting a little too nasty. I mean, it was like every loss was the worst loss ever. Every win means you're going to win the national championship. And there was nothing in between. There was no room for anything in between. And so he started this and wanted to make it so that it was, people were vetted, and you didn't have a lot of craziness that you have on some popular message boards. And so that website went on for quite some time. Jimmy and I wrote for that. He just approached us out of the blue because he was friends with us. I had no writing experience, and neither did Jimmy. And then he suggested we start a podcast, which we did, called Talking Tuscaloosa. And we were, as far as we knew, we were talking into the void. We didn't know if anybody was listening. We weren't on YouTube. We were only audio. And I had no idea of tracking how many people were listening. But I had people come up to me occasionally and say, "Man, I'm listening to this, and I appreciate it." And we were like, "That's great." And it was great for us because it allowed us to. I mean, I'll be honest, we cussed. I mean, we would tell stories. We would go on rants about things not involving Alabama. Well, then the Locked On Network approached us. It's sort of relatively new. It's started by a guy named David Lockheim, who is the play-by-play voice of the Utah Jazz, and he reached out to us again out of the blue and said, "Look, I'm looking for some Alabama folks. Would you guys be interested?" And we said yes. And I have no problem telling this part of the story. Yes, he said, "You will get paid. We don't know, it'll be small at first, and then hopefully it gets bigger." Well, the first check we ever got from him, and we're one of the few that does co-host, so we have to split the check essentially. The first check we ever got was for $17. And I was like, "Hey, was this right?" And they said, "Oh, no, it's not right. You're supposed to split that with Jimmy." And I was like, "Oh my God, it's worse than I thought." And so, obviously things have gotten better since then. It's become somewhat profitable, and again, we're not doing it for the money. I promise you that. And if you watch some of our production, you probably know that. We just want to come on here, go be very organic, be very real, say what we really mean, and go from there. So it's been a wild ride. It's been a lot of fun, and the Locked On Network has exploded, and we're very fortunate, and we just appreciate it. So I know, somebody like you that's out there doing this, I know it's a struggle sometimes, and it's tough, and you're putting yourself out there too. That's one thing, because people see us, and they talk a lot. Most people have good things to say, but there are some people that'll tell you, "Hey, I think you're wrong about this, and you don't know what you're talking about." I'm like, "Well, you get you a podcast, and you can say whatever you want."
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, just like make it your brand, make it your show, and just run with it. Before we get into this Florida State game, and we'll talk about Florida State and we'll talk about Bama and overall their outlook, the first thing I do want to mention, and I haven't looked today for your podcast or anything to see if it's up yet. I've been pretty busy, but um, what's going on here, man, with this West Virginia series getting canceled? And I kind of jokingly put in here replaced with lesser G5 foes. I was looking forward to a game like that, man. All these home and homes we have coming up with all these teams, and we're still going to have them. But overall, what's going on there with West Virginia?
Yeah, so I think what happened was Alabama was covering its bases and saying, okay,
Mm-hmm.
if something goes wrong and the SEC doesn't go to the 9-game schedule, and we still only have 8 games, I think that Alabama was looking at, like, let's get one perennial power and one pretty good power. So if you look at how the several years were going, it was going to be Florida State, West Virginia, next year. This year is actually Florida State, Wisconsin, then Florida State, West Virginia, Ohio State, Oklahoma State, Notre Dame, on and on into the night. And I sort of dug that. I mean, I liked it myself because I'm going to the Florida State game. I love
Yeah,
going to away games. I went to Penn State a few years ago, going to Missouri this year. I've been to Oklahoma. I've been to A&M. I've been to Texas. I try to go to any away game. And I love going to the national championship games. I hadn't missed one since 1992 that Bama's in. So
that's awesome.
I want to go to these other venues because I've seen Alabama enough. In fact, I got a daughter that just started school there, and so I'll be seeing Alabama enough. So I love going and seeing how the other half lives. So in that regard, I'm disappointed because West Virginia, and again, nobody ever said this in the history of mankind, but I was looking forward to going to Morgantown. I was going to light a couch on fire. I was going to go to a coal mine, whatever I had to do.
Right.
And I thought it'd be fun. Well, it's coaching suicide to do this. And here's the problem. If you start doing it, let's say, so the SEC goes to the 9-game schedule, and then you still have West Virginia and let's say Florida State on the schedule next year. That's 11 Power 4 teams. That's not many teams are going to be doing that, and probably no teams are going to be doing that are going to be involved in the college football playoff, and especially not in the SEC. And when you think about, it's not just your average Power 4 teams. My bet is, and I know this hadn't been announced, my bet is Alabama will be facing Texas next year because they avoided them these first 2 years. They will probably have some combination of a Florida and a Texas A&M involved. Georgia may still be on there. Who knows? But I think, and obviously they've already got Auburn and Tennessee. They'll be permanents. Ole Miss could be on there, and we know how dangerous they are with Lane Kiffin right now. So adding a West Virginia, even though West Virginia is not great, let me tell you something. I'm not sure I want to deal with a lot of couple of years in Rich Rod's team facing the squad where he and his wife took a lot of heat for not taking the coaching job. I'm just not sure I want to do that coupled with these other games.
Yeah, and another thing for me is you look at like you mentioned, West Virginia, probably a 5 or 6 win team at best some years, right? Could be, getting going under Rich Rod, but it's games like that you look forward to no matter how good or tough or terrible a team might be. Like, I don't expect Florida State, which we'll get into that game a little bit here, but I don't expect them to turn it around from 2-10 and run all the way. I mean, could they get 6 or 7 wins? Sure. Are they going to be a big threat? We'll talk about it, but it's still cool to see the team, the Crimson Tide travel and really all these different teams across the SEC and the country just go on the road. It's just cool to see those atmospheres in college football. So, and I know the fans love it, the players love it, the coaches love it. Let's get into this FSU game. Let's talk about, and I'll go ahead and throw this up. I want to talk Florida State here. Tommy Castellanos at quarterback, Squirrel White at wide receiver from Tennessee. Of course, Castellanos coming over this year from Boston College. A couple key transfers for Florida State. For you specifically, when looking at this team this week, preparing for your show and everything, and just kind of getting ready for this matchup, what are some of the key players, especially the transfers that stand out for Florida State that could pose a threat on Saturday?
Well, I think first and foremost, it starts with the most important position in sports, as far as I'm concerned, and that's quarterback. And Thomas Castellanos is back there. Talked about this last night on our Sports Splits programming that, Gus Malzahn back as offensive coordinator. He loves a running quarterback. And so the natural thing to do is for people to say, hey, boy, this guy could give Alabama fits with the combo of Gus Malzahn and Thomas Castellanos. And my retort to that is, yes, I'm not going to say it's impossible. At the same time, I think you guys are getting visions of Nick Marshall. Mm-hmm. Thomas Castellanos is not Nick Marshall. Now, he may be on par with him in terms from a passing idea. I don't know. But in terms of running, Nick Marshall, there's no doubt in my mind Nick Marshall is faster. I have no idea how fast Thomas Castellanos is. and Nick Marshall is faster. That's all I can say. He's also more elusive. I like Thomas Castellanos. I think he's a good player. I enjoyed watching him at Florida State. At Boston College last year. He has run his mouth a little bit, which doesn't bother me as much as it bothers some other folks. I'm not a huge fan of trash talk, but at the same time, it doesn't bother me all too terribly much. I apologize. I'm at my workplace, and sometimes I get a phone call. But, I'm thinking that in the end, Thomas Castellanos is going to be the most important player in this particular game for either side, really.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see that. And then when you look at this offense, which was really the struggle last year with DJ at quarterback and just not having the guys step up that needed to. Talk about the receivers a little bit. How do you view them? What do you see in guys? I saw Squirrel White came over from Tennessee, obviously a familiar player for this Alabama defense from last year and a couple of years prior. We know about him coming over. Deuce Robinson comes in, posing a threat. I mean, well, let me ask: is there a threat on this field for Bama's secondary in this game?
Oh yeah, I mean Deuce Robinson, who transferred over from Southern Cal, he's a dude. He's good.
Mhm.
Squirrel White's pretty doggone good. He had a big catch against Alabama a couple years ago. And whenever you're playing your home state team like Squirrel White would be, he was at Clay Chalkville. He was on the same team with Jalen Mbakwe. I mean, can you imagine how difficult it must have been? I think DJ Barber, who was he got in some trouble at Auburn, I think he was on that team too as a linebacker. I mean, they just had dudes. But Squirrel White's not a bad player at all. Now, he's not going to be all SEC. I don't think that at all. At the same time, you look at Deuce Robinson. This is a guy that's coming over from Southern Cal. I mean, he's got a lot of talent. I mean, they liked him a lot at USC. For whatever reason, it just didn't work. Now, I think he's a great player, and I think he can be very dangerous against Alabama. So, I mean, those are two guys right there that just stand out immediately in terms of, hey, could they give you fits? Now, the other guys I don't know quite as much about. I know Elijah Moore is a redshirt freshman. I'm trying to think. Gavin Blackwell is another guy who I don't know a ton about, but their two starting receivers, I think can be pretty good. The other guy that's very interesting, and obviously, again, another guy is going to be playing his home state. He's going to be playing the team he used to play for, and that's Roydell Williams. Jimmy and I took some heat the other day because we talked about Roydell Williams a good bit, and everybody's like, well, he's not even going to start. There's going to be Azumain Cromah, the guy, the freshman that's coming in from Georgia that Auburn wanted very desperately. Well, it turns out Roydell is going to start. And frankly, I get it. That's what I would do too if I were Florida State. I'd want to play the guy that's playing against his former team. I'd want to play the experienced back who can help pass protect, who knows because Roydell is a good blocker. I remember that well. And so I'm on board with Florida State starting him. At the same time, I think Alabama's going to know his tendencies too. So, they've got some guys. Again, I come back to the chemistry question. When you go to the transfer portal this hard, and again, they did it on the defensive side too. They've got some dudes on the defensive side. They've got some dudes along the offensive line. But the thing is, like Darrell Jackson, I think he came in from Miami, right? This is a guy who's going to be playing nose guard. He's huge. He's like 6'5", 350. He's going to be going up against Parker Brailsford, who is much smaller. But Parker Brailsford at the same time is very technically sound, and some people think he could win the Remington Award. So that's going to be an interesting battle to watch. And I just Earl Little's on this team. I mean, people forget about that because he transferred from Alabama a few years ago. And he's penciled in as a starter. So there's a lot of subplots to this. I mean, especially when you consider Alabama's the team that kept Mike Norvell and Florida State out of the playoffs a few years ago. Then all the talk about was Alabama ever offering Mike Norvell or not. I personally don't think that ever happened. Mike Norvell intimated it did. There's just a lot going on with these two teams.
Switching gears here, let's get into Alabama. Obviously, that's who you cover, but we talk about this offseason. The big question was, who does Kalen DeBoer like at quarterback? Ty Simpson, as no surprise to anybody. And if it is a surprise, I would say then you haven't been paying attention. He's been backing up Jalen Milroe and everything. He's now quarterback one. For you, what is your biggest concern and excitement about Ty Simpson this season? And specifically going into this game, it being his first start and being on the road.
Look, I'm kind of down with his first start being in an environment like this. Florida State's a good program, but they were 2-10 last year. They're not Ohio State. They're not Notre Dame. We're not going somewhere like that. We're not playing Clemson in Clemson. This is a good start, a good place for him to start, where he can get his feet wet against a hostile environment, against a very good team, not necessarily a great team, and we can see what he's got. Because if he doesn't perform very well, hey, you may want to start warming up Austin Mack and Keelan Russell. So
Yeah.
I think this is a great spot for him, but I believe in Ty Simpson. I really do. This is a guy who is a former 5-star. His dad is a head coach. He's got his head on his shoulders. His dad has talked about how, hey, look, I talk to him every day, all the time. I talk to him at 5 a.m, and I talk to him right before he goes to bed at 9 p.m. This is not a Joe Namath guy out there partying all the time. And there's nothing wrong with that because Joe Namath was Joe Namath. But Ty Simpson is a little bit more reserved. And much has been made of the fact that he called Nick Saban and asked for some advice. He also called A.J. McCarron and Bryce Young and Jalen Milroe. And I think that he was just covering his bases. He wanted to make sure, hey, look, what am I not thinking about that I need to be thinking about? What do I need to concern myself with? What do I need to just let go of? And I think ultimately all of them gave him the same advice, which was just go out there and play your game. And if you're prepared, it'll come naturally.
Absolutely. We're talking with Luke Robinson of Locked On Bama. Go check out the pod on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast, as they say on the Locked On Network. Go subscribe to him on YouTube. Let's keep it going here, man. Sticking to some Bama questions I got for you. It's going to be interesting watching this, somewhat new pieces, somewhat for like guys coming back experienced on the offense for FSU. But when you turn the ball to the other side of that type of game, you talk about the Bama defense. It had its issues last year. I'm very high on what it can do this year. I don't know, but I'm confident it can improve. What would you say is the biggest defensive challenge for the Bama secondary and ultimately the defensive front when they go up against this offense on Saturday, considering there's going to be some players, as you mentioned earlier, that they probably like Roydell or whoever, they went up in practice and maybe guys they haven't faced yet and like Castellanos.
Containment's going to be huge. I think Castellanos is certainly best when he's running around doing his own thing a little bit. And that's why I think Alabama's getting a lead is going to be huge. I want Castellanos playing from behind. And I think if you get a lead, you also calm Ty Simpson down a little bit. I think it means a lot. Now, I think everybody always wants to play with a lead, by the way. But what's the most important thing for the defense, I think, is going to be containment. And what worries me is the depth along the defensive line. Tim Keenan just came out today. He's banged up. He's not going to be 100% if he goes at all. So that's an issue. Jeremiah Beeman can come in and do nice things. Jordan Renaud's out there. James Smith, but James Smith's been battling some injuries. LT Overton, great player. Got a lot of talent along that defensive front, but you're starting to get deeper into the barrel. And while I think they're talented, they're not experienced. So that does concern me somewhat, especially when you're dealing with a mobile quarterback. The linebackers, I'm very happy with them. I don't think that this is going to be the greatest linebacker group in Alabama history, but Deontay Lawson, very good. Although he's coming off an injury, that's scary. Then Justin Jefferson. Now this is a guy that while he's undersized, I think he's sort of a heat-seeking missile. And I like the Colorado transfer coming in. I think he's going to be a good player too. So I like that. The strength of the team is going to be the defensive backs to me. And I think that's where Alabama's really going to make its hay. I think this is going to be a ball hawking group. It's going to be very difficult to throw on them. I think Dijon Lee is going to make a name for himself in this game somehow, some way. Obviously, you got Zabian Brown and Zay Mincy and Damani Jackson. I mean, you got dudes. Bray Hubbard, just Keon Sabb. I mean, boy, that defensive backfield's strong. So very excited about them. But, you always want to win those games in the trenches, right?
Oh, for sure. You got to win it up front. You got to win it on, both sides of the ball, every position on the field. You did mention some injuries. Just kind of keep us up to date with that. Got in my notes here, offensive lineman Jaden Roberts had been limited in practice from a concussion. Tim Keenan, who has been a key contributor, probably not a full go this weekend for FSU. There's a couple injuries that have been floating around this week. What kind of concerns you about that? And ultimately, what have you heard as far as health on some of these guys for Alabama?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's long-term problem here. I think that, Jaden Roberts dealing with concussion protocol, that is, 10, 15, 20 years ago, he'd probably be already out there practicing because we didn't pay as much attention to this type of stuff. You work through your quote unquote headache. And I feel like now you got to take all this much, much, much more seriously. So I understand Jaden Roberts. Jam Miller is what it is. We all know it's a collarbone thing. And he's probably not going to be back until Georgia, maybe Wisconsin, but probably Georgia. And then Tim Keenan is the newest addition to that list. And this just sort of came out today, like, Kalen DeBoer just sort of threw it out there. Yeah, like, I don't think he's going to be 100% if he can go at all. And everybody's like, whoa, we didn't know that. I think that's a problem. Again, it's not just that you lose a good player, a guy that you took to SEC media days. That's how much you believe in. It's also that you have to reach into your bag a little deeper for depth. That's certainly going to be less experienced. So that could be an issue. Again, I have a lot of faith in this team. I feel like none of these guys' absence, I think, is going to preclude Alabama from winning this game. But I do think that it's eyebrow raising, and you just wish it wasn't like this. If one of them were hurt, I think everybody would sort of shrug it off. Two of them were hurt. We were all like, okay, let's not have any more hurt. And then you hear about Tim Keenan, and you're like, uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. Well, for those that get hurt, you never want to see it, no matter who it comes down to. We're all human at the end of the day, man. We try to do the best we can. Let's talk about Bama in the season overall. Couple questions there. If Alabama struggles in this game this week, but they still win the game, obviously it's got to play out. But what do you think would cause that? What could be some key issues potentially in this matchup that would cause them to stumble a little bit and have to just barely eke out a win, whether it's a one possession game or maybe like 10 points or something?
You worry about the weather a little bit. There's certainly forecast of rain potentially. Now, I've seen it going to rain all day. I've also seen it where it's not going to rain till much later in the game. I've also seen it's going to rain at the beginning of the game, not at the end of the game. So, essentially, it's like every other weather report. We're just not really sure till we get there. I'd rather it not rain, especially when you're missing your number one tailback. I would much rather have Jam Miller if it's going to be a rainy thing. And I would certainly much rather have Jaden Roberts, who is a fantastic run blocker. So I was sort of hoping we'd get to see Ty Simpson put it in the air a little more, because I think that's what this staff wants to do too. And that could be an issue. Other things that could be a problem for Alabama, the kicking game. The punter situation seems far from solid. The field goal situation, not great. Certainly not Philip Doyle, Michael Proctor type era stuff. No, this is like, oh gosh, let's put him out there and all cross our fingers. So that I know that DeBoer's been high on Connor Talty here recently, but I'm kind of not buying it. He's not Will Reichert, I can tell you that. So those two things are concerning. And then, of course, you're just dealing with a new quarterback making his first start in a hostile environment. And at first game of the year, it's not like Florida State already has 5 games under their belt and they're 2-3 and people already given up. No, Florida State's coming in with a lot of hope. And it's Alabama's job to take that hope away from them early.
For sure. Whether it's this game or a couple games down the road, how, if at all, does this defense prove to be one of the best this season in college football or in the SEC outside of just having the talented guys? Because obviously, 5 stars mean so much just to get them, but you got to keep them. You got to put them on the field. How does Bama just up and do that? Because again, like I hate to always say this, but it's not Nick Saban's program anymore. It's Kalen DeBoer's, and whether Alabama fans want to hear this part or not, he's an offensive guy more so.
Yeah.
And I hate to hear it too a little bit. I mean, that's great, but yeah, I'm on the side of I want the hard hitting defense. How do they get that all fixed up and get it to where it's one of the best in college football?
I think it would have been a lot better last year if Alabama had Caleb Downs. I think that could have changed a lot of things last year. Missing him just hurt tremendously. And then I think from the Oklahoma game on, when Deontay Lawson went out of that game early, I think that also hurt a lot. So other than Vandy last year, the defense was pretty doggone good. Now, everybody say, well, you gave up 24 to Oklahoma. Yeah, one was a pick six, and I think some other scores were set up by interception. So I'm not putting that all on the defense. I think this defense is going to be one of the top in the country. I mean, there's, again, national analysts are backing that up. I think that they've got the talent there. And Kalen DeBoer does a great job going from year one to year two. And now we're 2 years away from Nick Saban. And I know Thomas Castellanos thinks that's a huge positive. Well, I think it's a huge positive for Alabama, too. This is going to be more of Kalen DeBoer's footprint. His fingerprint's going to be much more on this team than they were last year. I think he was somewhat handicapped last year, handcuffed maybe is a better word, by the Jalen Milroe situation, even though I think Milroe is a superhuman being, and he certainly gave us some incredible moments as Alabama fans. At the same time, I don't think he's exactly what Kalen DeBoer wants in a quarterback.
For sure. That being said, it's prediction time, man. I got to hear from you, and then we'll get out of here. But overall, you look at the schedule, kind of sort of tough. You got some road games here or there like this one. You got to play Auburn in the Iron Bowl at Jordan-Hare. If I'm being honest, my record prediction, I could see us 10-2 with losses to Georgia. And I just have a gut feeling. I don't know if Kalen DeBoer knows, but that's a burial like graveyard at Jordan-Hare. I hate to pick that, but I mean I could see us 10-2 and sneaking in the playoffs. Overall, you look at the schedule, everything comes together. What's the outcome for this team this year? And then ultimately, what would be your prediction for this game if you had to give a score and just the key players?
I think the key player is Ty Simpson. I think if he comes out and plays well, Alabama has no problem. If he comes out and doesn't play well, I think Alabama can still win, maybe even still cover, but it's gonna change my outlook for the season. So I'm putting some faith in Simpson. I'm gonna say Alabama wins this 34-17. I'm gonna say Bama goes 10-2. I would say the two losses. If I have to pick them, then I'm gonna say Georgia and Auburn, just like you. Although I will say this: Alabama has had Georgia's number. They might have it again. Kalen DeBoer has done things like go into Oregon and win when he was coaching at Washington. So he knows how to do stuff like that. And while Auburn is Jordan-Hare Stadium is made out of the grated bones of leprechauns and fallen spaceships and unicorn dust and everything else. Alabama has won there the last couple of times, and I know that they were much more talented. But I think what the biggest thing is going to be, how's Auburn looking coming into that game? If Auburn is not doing well, I think this year may be different than those previous years. So I'm leaning Alabama loses to Auburn and loses to Georgia. And at 10-2, I know you said they sneak in the playoffs. I don't think they sneak in at 10-2. I think they get in 100%.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. I just kind of put it that way. I
Yeah, I
think
got
they
you.
get in at 10-2. But two more things really quick. Bonus question here. Offensive and defensive MVPs for Bama in game one. And then also, what would a win or loss mean for both Florida State and Bama? Let's go.
Oh, a loss would be, I think, catastrophic for Alabama, and a win would be euphoria for Florida State. A loss for Florida State, I don't think, even if they get blown out, I don't think means a ton. And of course, a win for Bama just means status quo. Then offensive MVP, I'm going to go with Isaiah Horton. How about just taking a flyer here? Because
Yes, sir.
I think that Ryan Williams is going to be bracketed. I think that Jeremy Bernard seems like the easy answer, but I think Isaiah Horton's going to show some people what he's got because Kalen DeBoer does love a taller receiver, and he is that. So defensively, boy, how about LT Overton? Because I think he's going to be the one setting the edge, and I think he's going to be the one that tries to get the most containment with Castellanos.
For sure. Luke, love and appreciate you for doing this, man. Thank you so much. I'm excited for this game. We'll have to keep in touch, and we'll have to get you on more because I think you've given us a ton of good insight. Tell Jimmy I said hello and that I love the pod, and let people know where they can go find you, man.
Go check us out anywhere you get your podcast, Locked On Bama. Just type it in and we'll come up. And I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, buddy. Best of luck to you.
All right. Thank you, man.